There it goes. Okay,
All
we're
right.
good.
All right, this is science classroom. I'm Sherri Stevens. I'm the 7th grade science teacher.
I'm Janet Boitos, 6th grade science.
Susan Schuber, 8th grade science.
All right, what we're going to talk about tonight are the next generation science standards just briefly, and then we're going to talk about STEM, and then we're going to do a little activity using I can't wait to see this though.
It's good.
All right, we spent 2 weeks this summer at a workshop going all over this stuff, and I told somebody when we were eating dinner, I said, and I still don't understand all of it, so you have to kind of bear with us because we're still unpacking it, I guess is what they call it. This is off of the Next Generation Science Standards website. You guys want one or two? Just one? Okay. At the top, I've got the website, the web address up there at the top, so if you want to go and look at this yourself, you can. This is just a brief overview excuse me, of what's covered in middle school. The first page is physical science, then life science, earth and space science, and then the engineering design is on the last page. So in your spare time, if you want to read through that, I'm not going to read through all that. Anyway, so I've got up on the, okay, I'm done. Up on the board here, I've already pulled up the Next Generation Science Standards. So if you do want to go this, I can kind of walk you through it a little bit because there is a lot of information on here. When you get to the home page, it will look like this, and if you go to this tab that says Next Generation Science Standards, you click that. The easiest one to go to is where it's arranged by disciplinary core ideas, the DCI. If you click on that one, and then what I do, I just scroll down, and you'll see on the left-hand side is middle school. Can you guys see this okay? Do we need to turn off all the lights?
Go ahead.
All right, okay. Well, elementary's up at the top, you can see that. So if you have students in the elementaries, you can see what they're supposed to be covering now. And then we have the middle schools on the left-hand side here, and then high school standards are on the right-hand side. So you can just basically go into any of those. I'll just go into Earth systems. And this gives you the standards. There's anywhere from 3, is that the least now, I think? 3 standards up to, I think, 8, I think is the most on one of them, it seems like. And this kind of goes into detail about what each standard involves. And down here, it's all color-coded, it's all very pretty. They have what they call 3 domains. Is that right? I always have to remember that. Okay. The first one is science and engineering practices, so it shows how they tie those into the standards that are up here. The disciplinary core ideas, it basically just restates basically what's at the top. Just kind of goes over that again. Cross-cutting concepts, that's where it's involving other disciplines. Math especially, it's a big push for science and math. They're pulling in other things. When we get to the STEM, you'll see that, which is the science and technology, engineering, mathematics. Okay, so we're just like pulling it into. It's a real big push in engineering. The process, it's more the process rather than the knowledge of a lot of science. I mean, you have to have the science knowledge as a background, but it's not a big push for, memorization. It's, actually hands-on application, which a lot of us have already been doing anyway. So a lot of this is not new, especially, I know out here, especially with us. We've already been teaching a lot like this. It's little things we have to tweak, pulling engineering in a little bit more. But I just say good teachers are already doing this anyway. They're doing this hands-on type stuff. So it's a lot of stuff to look at. Down at the bottom, they have they have math standards that are covered with these science standards, and then at the bottom it's got reading standards. So it's showing how we are covering some of those standards in the science class too. So it's all intertwined basically with the new Common Core in science, in math and in reading language arts. All right, I'm going to look at my notes here and see if I missed something. I don't know. And Jan, you may kind of think this too. I mean, with all this new stuff coming out, it reminds me of the space race, the late 50s and early 60s. I was very young, well, born then. But just, reading about it and kind of living through part of that, with the Apollo program and everything, it just seems like that's kind of what they're going towards again. It's pushing the engineering because we are behind. with this, and it just kind of feels like that too, you know.
Sherri, this morning coming in, I was listening to NPR and did you hear this?
You were telling us this.
Oh,
yeah.
there was a study, that they gave like a STEM, like a science, technology, engineering, math type test to 15-year-olds through, I think, 65-year-olds. It was a range of people, American adults. And they did this across, I don't remember how many of the the developed countries, and Americans scored lowest. American adults, not the kids as much, but the adults. So we're the result of memorization and rote learning, and then not knowing how to solve problems. And my parents' generation there have been books written about them that they were the last great. They knew how to do things, how to solve problems. And then my generation didn't learn that, unless we had farmer dads, because farmers can do everything. And so.
Do you want to go on into the?
Yeah, are you done, Sherri?
Sure.
No, go ahead.
No, I think
think you got it.
This isn't all new stuff. There's some new procedures in this. It's a lot of what was always good ideas, but kind of reorganized and put back together again.
How does this stuff fit with your Common Core standards? I mean, is this different than that, or?
Yes, and we're not allowed to call them Common Core standards.
You're not?
No.
Not for the science ones, no. They're next generation of science standards, so. But like I said, down at the bottom.
So is it just semantics? Is it the same thing? I mean, these are, yeah, okay. Well, in my mind, as a parent, we're hearing Common Core, Common Core, Common
Right.
Core. So in my mind, is this the same thing? Or are we talking about two different things now that our kids have to, muddle their way through two different expectations?
No, it's very,
It's the
very
one
simple.
I think the
expectation.
overriding idea with all this reform is to teach kids to learn how to solve problems.
Just to help them think.
Yeah, think and solve problems.
And what they did with the Common Core that Sherri was talking about is they embedded some of that math Common Core and some of that reading Common Core into these next generation science standards. And so that way, not only are we teaching science, but we're bringing that informational text aspect from the reading class. We're bringing those higher thinking math questions in there. So that way when we teach it, they're getting it in two subjects now.
Making it relevant.
So you're using more of an interdisciplinary approach.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Because life is interdisciplinary.
Mhm.
That's what I found.
Yeah. Didn't we all? Yeah. I have to stand over there.
Yeah, because of the
Stand wherever you
video.
want.
Okay.
You just gotta be
I
in the
just didn't
video.
want to stand in front of the.
Okay. STEM is an acronym, all capitalized, stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And just for myself, engineering, I think of engineering as being, of course, engineers. And then I thought more about, well, yeah, there are people who create usually physical solutions to physical problems. And they do that by using math and science. So an engineer is someone who, the verb engineer, to make. And the terms used primarily to address education policy and curriculum from kindergarten all the way through college. You can now get STEM degrees in college. And it's a very potent degree, very potent degree. And the idea behind STEM is to increase our nation's competitiveness and technological development. And that goes right with the Sputnik thing. There's nothing wrong with there being 5,000 Indians in State Farm in Bloomington, as whoever qualifies for the job should get it. You would just like to think that kids who graduate from American schools could also qualify for those kinds of jobs. And it's not that they're stupid, it's that they're just not being prepared. So that's what all of this is trying to address. The term STEM began to be used in education regarding the perceived lack of qualified candidates for high-tech jobs. And I think we've all heard that in the news. Within 20 years, there won't be any American graduates who can qualify for all the high-tech jobs in the world. There'll be non-Americans. It also addresses a concern that these subjects are usually taught in isolation, not integrated or connected. When we all know the kid who can get an A+ in math, but you give them a real problem to solve and they don't know how to use that knowledge. It's just floating there in a void of irrelevance, so not being used. As a result, engineering will be embedded in the science and social studies and technology curriculum and will be introduced at a much earlier age. And we've all seen little kids that can put things together
Oh,
to
construction of blocks, yeah.
make things. Yeah, I mean, they're engineering already. As daunting as it sounds, this all interprets into hands-on types experiences. And from my own experience as a science teacher, and I know as well as you, I know that a good STEM type project is challenging, it's exciting, it's personal, and it's entirely individual because each outcome is unique to the person who created that outcome. So the kids experience, and this is where it's a little tough for them at first, perseverance. There's not a lot of perseverance required in a rote kind of curriculum. Risk-taking, a wonderful attribute. Learning through failed attempts, learning how to not be afraid to fail, and just choosing the things you know you can do, which means you don't ever grow. And ownership. The teacher's role is providing the knowledge necessary, the background information, this arithmetic and reading, writing, and arithmetic. And then giving support and guidance, often through good questioning, like Socrates, under a tree. Just learn how to ask good questions. The students work through an application or engineering task. There's no one correct outcome. The students are improvising, creating unique solutions by applying their math, science, and technology skills. And the hope is that STEM education will increase America's talent pool by improving K-12 science and math education. It will strengthen the skills of teachers. We're all going through a lot of other, like that course we took this summer. Additional training in math, science, and technology. It'll increase the number of students prepared to enter college and then graduate with STEM degrees. And I'll tell you, from my own personal experience also, and I think every teacher's seen this, is when a student feels that they can bring something unique to a solution, they own that. Because they know they're the only ones who can do it that way. And we love that. It drives us. So.
The one other thing that ties into all of this is that they've basically given us permission to slow down. We're going, with these standards, we're supposed to be going more in-depth instead of, just on the surface, we're going a lot deeper with the subjects. So.
Which is where the concepts live.
Right.
So
right.
It's about time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So the main idea tying that STEM and the next generation science standards is the backwards design process. And what that is when the kids are given a problem to solve, they have to think through it. Instead of giving a step-by-step procedure that says, step 1, add water to a beaker, they have to think and be able to say, okay, well, I need a beaker of water, let me go get it, instead of being told exactly what to do. They're given materials, and they have to figure out how to use those materials. So the best way to teach that is to actually practice it, and that's what you guys get to do. You're going to be working in teams of 2, preferably, so Janet, if you want to work back here.
Okay.
You are going to save my best friend, Fred. My best friend, Fred, is a gummy worm. And you see, he was boating one day, and his boat flipped over, and he was not wearing his handy-dandy lifesaver. So what you have to do is you have to get the lifesaver around Fred, around the middle of his body, so it looks like this. The catch is you can only touch Fred and the lifesaver using 2 paper clips. You can't pin him to a table, you can't pin him to the cup. You can only use the 2 paper clips. So with the students, that brings critical thinking into the process. They have to work through a design of how are they going to get the lifesaver around the gummy worm. And it takes a lot of trial and error, which is what that backwards design is for. It's go back and reevaluate what worked, what didn't work, how can we do this better. So if you guys wanna grab a cup, get your handy dandy paper clips and try to save my best friend Fred.
Can we change the shape of the paper clips?
You can only touch the paper clips. You can get them out of the cup.
Can we change the shape of the paper clips?
You may change the shape of the paper clips. But you may not stab Fred, because that will kill him. You may not stab. You may not stab the lifesaver, because that would cause water to get into the lifesaver and it would make you sick.
So like,
You must treat Fred as if he was alive.
we can't touch the gummies?
You may not touch the gummies.
Originally I thought about eating. That's what you were thinking. I don't know if they would squish him. But then,
I got this.
can we touch? We can't touch him.
So this is what, if you have an 8th grader, this is what your 8th grade student did the first week of school.
But see, where do you get your force?
That's what you have to figure out.
And we can't stab him.
Can't stab him.
You know, it's his tail. He really wouldn't know the difference.
Can't
It'll
pin him
grow
against the
back.
table.
Okay, start over.
Yep. Can't pin him against the table, can't stab him.
We got this still what we need to do.
You know, we need to figure out how to get
I think we can still make that
force attack.
You guys are going through exactly what the 8th grade science students have gone through. They have done this exact activity, only they couldn't talk.
That really stretches. Oh, they couldn't talk?
They couldn't talk while they did this. We worked a lot on communication as well.
And this like sticks
I don't know. I was thinking maybe there's a way we could both make it. Okay. Wait, it's gotta be stretching. It has to be right. Well, since your head's up to the top, he doesn't have to have it in the middle of it.
How far does it have to come on?
Preferably around the middle.
Okay.
Although we're,
We have to.
Something is, they don't have any leverage.
okay, let's take a time out. Because we are at our 6:20 time, I don't want to hold you guys late for the next
We're
activity.
technically on. I want credit for being technical.
Okay.
The tail.
How were you guys doing it? What did you guys do?
Well, it's definitely a teamwork type thing.
Okay, how did you use your paper clips?
We made them into like little,
Pushy.
this I used to actually hook the end of the worm and pull it up.
Okay.
And then we put the end of, we put the
One on each side,
lifesaver
the kind of-
with the hole that's a little bit bigger. And then we put the tail on top and kind of push the tail through.
And they're sticky, so they
And
kind
they're
of.
sticking to the paper clips.
Yeah,
without any
that's true.
issues.
So see, you can kind of pull him through now. Just
Okay,
Okay, except you're wedging against the table, and one of the rules is you can't wedge them against the table.
okay, well,
Okay, Janet, what did you guys do?
we didn't wedge it, we did it on.
Goofed.
Okay.
We wedged them, we thought it was easy because you just wedged them against the table and.
We tried like a needle and thread, but then you said we couldn't stab it.
Stab him, can't stab him.
Oh, right.
Okay, so what did you guys do over here?
We typically go like that route, but we haven't made it that far.
Lasso this guy.
Okay.
And then we were gonna actually try to pull it, pull
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
did you do?
Now,
Right.
notice every design is different. And that is okay, that's what backwards design is about. Every design is allowed to be different. I'll tell you, the students, a lot of them turned the paper clips into pinchers and used them to pinch both things.
Because you can hold and pull and.
Yep, you can hold and pull. So that's your basic backwards design. It's to engage your thinking in order for the kids to extend their learning, to have to think through the entire process. It's also to encourage them to be risk takers. oh, maybe this'll work, maybe it won't.
Like, and then do you stop and talk about some of the science principles that they're actually doing? I mean, that they don't even know that they're doing?
Yeah, and I used it at the beginning of the year, and we focused on communication. Because as lab partners, they have to have good communication with each other. So I gave them the first 10 minutes of the activity, they couldn't say a word to each other. And it was driving them nuts because they would want their partner to do something and they couldn't talk to them. And so then we brought in the talking to each other piece. And then they realized that communicating with each other wasn't all that great either because they had different ideas. So that's where we brought it into the science aspect.
Okay, how would you add math to this, measuring and graphing?
Measuring and graphing, we could do time elapsed to solution. You could do number of solutions that you can come up with. You can, I don't know, I've never thought about graphing it.
Well, that's my challenge in this is putting more authentic math into what we do in science. I don't, that's something I want to do more of.
Well, and I hear both of our kids at home now will say, I don't know why I have to do this. I've not been using algebra in, 15 years. And it's kind of like, yes, you will. And the more important thing is you have to realize it's really making you think today and helping you think critically. And they just hate that answer, but it's,
It's a good answer.
but it's, you need to do this.
I think it's valid just because it does anything that makes you think is a good thing.
Yes.
How are the students adapting to this when they do
I tell you, in science, your successful times are when you're doing this sort of thing. The kids just,
Yes.
if they're doing stuff and testing and experimenting and
Do
writing
it. I
down
think the key-
results, they
yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Most of them, I won't say every single one, but
I know,
overall,
I know my student is coming home and it used to be when I was going, we do it at school, well, we did this, and that was it. But now I'm getting, he's engaging and telling me specifically, well, we did this, and oh, this thing did this and this thing. Well, I know these were crystals, so it had to be this and this. I mean, he's really critically thinking through
yeah.
what's going on, and when it used to be, oh, we just did that. And
I didn't like science as a kid. My dad was a scientist, so I loved listening to him. But we didn't do science in school as a kid. It was just books and reading and answering questions. It was no.
It was such a biology and plants and stuff like that maybe, but I never had like, the physical science I always felt was like completely not really there.
Yeah, and it's so rich with opportunity.
I didn't mind biology.
I love biology.
But it's like I said, we already kind of have been teaching this
Yeah.
stuff anyway, and so I don't think they really, students that I've had I don't think it's like, oh my gosh, this is something different, because it's really not. I mean, the only thing, like, I do a solar oven project when we do alternative energy, yeah. And the only thing that I, now looking at the next generation science standards with the engineering is, usually the kids, they make the oven, we go out and we make s'mores in it, and they do a lab sheet, and then we're done. So now, how I would change that, or I will be doing this, is they have to reach a certain temperature, so they'll go out and test it, and then they have to come back and redesign it, and they have to keep redoing it until their solar oven reaches that
And
temperature.
that's the engineering
And that's
part.
the engineering part of that. So
Using data.
so, it's things I'm already doing that are fun and great activities that the kids are really engaged in, but just just tweaking those things and adding those parts to it.
Now, the high school is having to do this, and they got more into just, I teach this, I teach this, I teach this, and they're having to integrate now. And they're seeing, they said the kids are just really, they're reacting well. They're having fun. They're
And
doing
that's-
science.
The high school especially is
Mhm.
giving them, here's your materials, here's what your end product needs to look like.
Go
You need
for
to
it.
figure it out.
So what can we do at home to help encourage the same mode?
Just let them get into anything and everything.
Yeah.
You've
Let
got an
'em
old
know.
motor, let them dig into, anything, really.
Take a computer apart, cook.
Yeah, and cooking, oh yeah, I got
Well,
Brandon
same
this
thing.
big,
Yeah.
cook with me and bake
Yeah.
and,
I have Dylan takes our computers apart.
They'll be saving those things for sixth grade, because we'll be taking machines apart after
That's
this.
right.
He went through a class through, the 4-H program up at Heartland. No, kids at college, I don't remember where it was. But he came home with the computer, they got him from State Farm, State Farm had donated, and they took them all apart and then put them back together, and he got to keep it, and I'm like, you're kidding me.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
Awesome.
Megan,
I'm Megan's mom.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, so anyway, nice to meet you. I keep missing you. Yeah.
I had experience with you.
I
Yeah.
sure said Dylan,
So
now I
I
did.
So anyway, she
That
loves
was
the
potato.
class.
Oh
Yeah,
my
somebody gave us
God.
those, and it was so funny. She goes, "Oh, I have to give this to this one." So anyway, that
Her
was
daughter
funny.
brought me a potato.
A regular potato or like a?
It's not a sweet potato, it's a regular russet potato, just enormous.
One potato that size?
One potato.
Did you put?
It's like a
Wait,
weapon.
somebody
And
gave us like a
Jacob
big
was
bag
looking
of
forward to the roller coaster thing because Megan has told him all
Oh,
about
so.
it.
Oh.
Just saying.
Oh, good, save those toilet paper
I
tubes.
haven't had all of it, I have AJ.
How funny.